Dun, 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 dun. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of She-Hulk. This week it's episode 8, the big one we've all been waiting for. Couldn't tell it from the title, Ribbit and Rip It, but by the content you can. And of course, joining me today, always lovely to see her, it is from Alyssa Jean's review, Alyssa herself, Alyssa Jean.
Hello, thank you for having me. I wouldn't miss this, and sorry other people couldn't make it. They're like too busy, I guess, working and stuff or going to
Yes.
concerts and things.
Jeez.
I have dedicated my life to talk about this episode, this wonderful episode. So
Well,
I am
yes.
here.
It means so much for me that you did show up. Yes, unfortunately, we knew that Mark was going to be away this week, and Rob from Smoking Gun Reviews was going to jump and fill in. But unfortunately, life called his attention, and heroes got to go where the hero in needs, right? So it's just going to be me to listen tonight, but that's okay because we've got Eric Scott in the Rich Room live in the chat right now. Lovely to see you guys, and very excited to get into this week's episode. So let's kick things off. Alyssa, what did you think? I know we had a lot of expectations with Daredevil showing up, but we also had to make the show work as well. What did you think of this episode of Charlie Cox's return to Daredevil and how they pulled it all off?
Well, first of all, this was my favorite episode of the season, and I think that they really stuck the landing with bringing Daredevil in. Yeah, there was definitely a part of me in the back of my mind. It was like they could screw it up, and it could, be a huge disappointment, and everybody's going to complain about it, including me, because they're gonna do it all wrong. But I loved it, and I love seeing Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. And it's funny, I was even kind of surprised for no reason because I just had a brain fart. He was like, "Oh, my lawyer's coming. Oh, who's your lawyer?" And I was like, "Oh, who is his lawyer?" I'm like, "Oh, duh, yeah, obviously." But it was a great moment when he walks in the courtroom, and we'll get into it, but it's good to see Jen finally getting something real. Um, there's a lot to talk about with this episode, but I absolutely loved it. I really thought that they stuck the landing with the reintroduction to Daredevil, or I guess first introduction to Daredevil in the MCU, however you want to look at it. I really thought they did it well, and it worked well for She-Hulk. I was wondering how the Charlie Cox Daredevil would fit into the more like comedic tone of She-Hulk, but it worked. It worked really well. I have one gripe about the very end of it, but we'll talk about it when we get there. But overall, I still really love this episode.
It seems like you and I have been kind of in sync for a lot of stuff this season, and I think we're right up here with the end because much like Jen herself, I was like, "What? It seemed like it came to a very satisfying conclusion. Why are we still here?" Little bit of stuff to talk about once we get to that point. But I completely agree. Look, Charlie Cox is just charming as all hell, and he has Matt Murdock down. I think that's one thing that you can be confident about with the questions of the humor is how is that going to work? I agree with you. I think it worked perfectly, and I think part of that is because of Charlie's comfort with Matt Murdock and his sort of range of stuff. Because there was bits of comedy in the Netflix series. They were just more inserted in as regular kind of comments and back and forth, about his blindness and tripping and how many fingers am I holding up and things like that. And I think he just leaned into a little bit more of the playfulness. This to me is kind of like a more seasoned Matt Murdock who's a little more comfortable in his skin and everything that he's doing. And I think he was able to play it with a fun comic edge without going over the top. And I think that ended up really working in with this. Also, the chemistry between he and Tatiana Maslany was awesome. When we get to the bar scene, of course, but it was just like, when she turns the camera and go, "It's not just me, is it?" Like, no. We agree with you. This is all awesome. fun bit. I like the new suit. It did totally work, and the way that we have Matt kind of guiding Jen at the end here into being a superhero and how you can actually mix both of your lives, and have that be kind of a satisfying blend, I thought was really perfect. So for the arc of Jen that we've been having, of her kind of stepping into the She-Hulk persona really and accepting that both sides of being the Hulk and being Jen, I think this was the perfect topper to that arc there.
Yeah, I really like that too. I hope that it wasn't undone by the ending, but I have a feeling that they'll resolve it next week. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I really did like that too. How he was like, yeah, you could be a superhero and a lawyer at the same time. You could do that.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into it. And our introduction to Leapfrog, or as he likes to refer to himself, punning, the Guard Frog. Look, as a lover of dad jokes, that I can tell you that's awful. That's just bad. And an interesting character, Leapfrog, actually more of a villain in the comics, and ends up taking that direction here in the episode, which I love. But starting out more vigilante, more trying to do the good thing, or at least that's what his story is. How truthful any of this was, because it's just basically what we have Jen being told, for the damage to his suit. Yeah, what did you think of our Leapfrog character?
It's a bit silly, but so I am not like super familiar with this character from the comic books. I very vaguely remember him, but I have watched a couple other videos that explained it, and apparently they changed things up where this character Eugene is Frogman, and he's a vigilante, and his father was Leapfrog and was the villain. So they kind of combine those two characters. Here they just say his father was really rich and a very important client.
Sure.
But because his first name is Eugene, like in the comics was Frogman, the son of Leapfrog, so they just decided to merge it all together and kind of make him a vigilante / villain type of thing.
As the MCU tends to do, blending and twisting things.
Yeah. But no. I actually thought it was kind of funny to be honest. I thought I liked the format that they used here, where he's like kind of explaining it to She-Hulk, and he's a total douche, as a lot of our clients have tended to be this season. I feel like She-Hulk has encountered a lot of just douchebags in the dating scene, and then clients.
Rhymes with rich parents.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But yeah, I really enjoyed that opening scene and that introduction to this like ridiculous character. And I really wanted her to not have to take this case. I knew she was going to. She goes to her boss there, and it's like, really, like, I can't do this because the suit guy is gonna hate me, and of course he does. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute, but I was hoping she would get out of it, but I knew that for the show to happen, she would have to take the case.
Would have to, yeah. You got to have the conflict, and yeah, I think it was an appropriately goofy character too. I mean, just the whole concept of it, of course, is silly enough anyway.
Yeah, we'll get into it later when we get to his lair, how silly that was. I really enjoyed that. This character is just very silly in a good way.
Yeah, there was actually a fun little Twitter teaser for this episode where they had a short little video of having the girl who plays Nikki, Tatiana Maslany, and Mark Ruffalo all auditioning to be Leapfrog.
Oh, was really?
Just very goofy, tying it up, of course, with Kermit the Frog doing an audition, who I think would have nailed it.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah, they really should have gotten Kermit, honestly.
But yeah, jet boots not always being the best thing to check out unless you have, I don't know, spring feet, some sort of landing. This ends up hitting him again at the end of the episode. But yeah, this basically gets us into our main conflict here for Jen is, oh my God, I have to go after the guy who's making my dress for the gala. and super suit and all of the rest of her clothes. This is one of those slightly annoying things for me. And we hit this would be the only point where I think that I guess where sitcoms don't always work for me, just because you have to make people stupid in order for stuff to happen. And Jen's kind of approach to Luke isn't like, hey, I got this crazy guy. He's going to do he wants to go after you for the suit. I don't want to take the case, but what's up? What happened? She doesn't do that. She kind of like stumbles into it, which you have to do for comedy, in order to get the antithesis. And of course, Luke tearing up her dress and banishing her from the store, which I think is the worst possible thing that she could get. She just found a nice tailor that makes all the best stuff. So I was going to say that kind of setup is the only thing that kind of annoys me, when you got to kind of make the person stupid so they can do the mistake that's going to propel the comedy and the storyline forward. Desiree in the chat, I feel like regardless of what she said, he would be pissy. I don't disagree with that. But what did you think about the whole Luke setup here?
I actually was going to say the same thing Desiree said. Like, I don't think there's really anything that she could have said that that guy's just a dick. Like, he just is. Like, he has been since the beginning. I think there was no way around. I think I agree with you that she probably didn't take the best approach, but I don't know that there was the right approach with this dude. I think
Fair.
No matter what she said, approaching this subject with him, he would have probably banished her and tore up her dress, which I thought he did really quickly and really rashly, but that's just who this character is. So it fit with what we had seen of him previously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I know, as I recall, I think Mark really hated this character, and I don't think that I really despise this character, but he's not my favorite either. Like, he definitely is a trope. He definitely is kind of a sitcom trope combined with a comic book trope, the guy who makes the superhero costumes. And yeah, I wouldn't say that this was my favorite scene, but it was kind of played out as I expected it to.
Sure. And really, even any of these first couple of scenes, we're basically just trying to get them to get to the next scene, which is when we get into court. And the beautiful, awesome reappearance of Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. Because, of course, we know the attorney that he's going to bring in. I loved how they set up that later on with the discussion is that he made him a couple of suits, and so he owed him one. And Jen doesn't even pick that up originally of like why he would be making the blind man suits, which was fun. But yeah, God, man, I gotta say, it's so good to have him on here, and I love the snappy retorts back and forth from a legal standpoint, really showing that Matt is Jen's equal, if not more competent, certainly more confident in his approach onto things. Plus he's got the little extra insights we can, use to trip her up and trip the client up. But yeah, what was your thoughts on Matt's appearance here in the courtroom?
Yeah, I was so happy, and we knew it was coming, but I was standing up and cheering when Charlie Cox walked into that courtroom. It was so good, and I thought he actually out-lawyered Jen. I thought he was a better lawyer than Jen, honestly.
Ninja her.
Yeah, Jen was hurt by the fact that she has a lying douchebag as a client who didn't tell her the whole story. And also, of course, Matt can, tell when people are lying, and he can tell. Oh, that was another great scene where he's like, he's lying. And the judge was like, yeah, we know. Everybody here knows he's lying.
That was okay. See, that's the fun bit that I kind of enjoyed them playing with, is he could lean into of course, even when he says it's like, I think he used jet fuel. Don't ask me how I know that. It was just, and they just roll with it. That I think really did work.
Yeah. Yeah, Desiree's right. He tech cheated with his super sniffer. Yeah, he definitely had that advantage. and Jin had the disadvantage of having a client who didn't divulge the whole story to her. Um, but it did seem to me like he outlawyered her. But yeah, that was a great bit. Yeah, I was just really loved how he just kind of outwits her in that scene. And yeah, I actually, I mean, I was rooting against Eugene because he was a douche. So I
Sure.
was just like kind of rooting for Matt Murdock. I mean, I don't like the other guy either, but I like Matt Murdock. So
Yeah, you're excited for him to be here. You want to see him do
yeah,
his stuff, and yeah, I think he totally outmaneuvered her. The fact that
yeah,
she does have a douchebag for a client and doesn't even really want to be there in the first place
yeah.
is definitely gonna kind of her motivation. But this was also where we kind of get the first bit of the Matt Murdock comedy. I mean, straight from the beginning is, oh, I had trouble parking. Just like the blind guy has trouble parking. No, it was my driver. It was just, again, it was just a light-hearted, not over the top, just like what a smart ass blind guy would say. He'd make these references. He'd do I mean, I'm going to make assumptions here because I don't know. Um, but I like that. That's where I say I think that it really worked. And then again, leaning immediately into that quick back and forth with the legalese and maneuvering and counter maneuver and stuff. It was nice. I think it set the tone really well. And again, it was a quick scene. We got the back and forth, and the judge went, "Wait a minute, that was a value of the instructions. Lawsuit void," and we're out, and we can move on to the next stuff. Because while we love the intro, we don't want to see Matt in court. That's not really what we're here for.
Exactly. And that wouldn't make a very interesting episode, like Leapfrog versus asshole Taylor dude. Like that just wouldn't that's not what we're here for at all. So right, you're right. They just kind of wrapped it up just as quickly as they needed to, so we can start getting into the really good stuff with that chemistry that you talked about between the two.
Yeah. And again, we get to go right into that immediately afterwards, which again, the pacing I think really worked well for this, with moving from scene to scene, so we could get to these nice moments of, look, comics have a long history of Matt Murdock and Jen Walters together. Were they going to pull that off here? Were they going to tease it? And oh man, I could certainly have just watched the two of them banter for half of the episode back and forth in the bar there, and I would have been totally fine with it. And then a little kicking ass afterwards. That would have been sort of the perfect blend. But yeah, great introduction, great bit of chemistry, and I loved that we start to get the advice, the kind of like, veteran hero can start to give to the new person, somebody who's seeing what he is, when he brings up like, hey, you're kind of in a unique position here. Is Jen Walters can help people out when society fails them, and then She-Hulk could help them if the law fails them, which is sort of Daredevil's philosophy, what we got into from the series here, now conveying on to another lawyer superhero. And I loved how I was able to do this without being like, I'm Daredevil now. This is just a guy that's giving some advice that is kind of cute and having a nice conversation with.
Yeah, so it's interesting that he's a veteran lawyer now. He's a veteran superhero. Are we? What do you read from that? Because I'm reading it as maybe he has, even if this isn't exactly the Netflix show, maybe this is an alternate timeline. Who knows, or an alternate universe, but that he has been around as long as that Netflix show, which would have been what, like 2000, what was that, 13 or something like that?
15, I think.
15? Okay.
2015, around there.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe the Daredevil has been actually around that long. And I'm just picturing the MCU as like we're seeing the A list, we're seeing the big name, the Avengers, Spider-Man, but every town like might have their local superhero that like people don't is not well known worldwide. And maybe Daredevil is just one of he's the Hell's Kitchen like kind of local boy that didn't make it big, and like just people just don't know because she doesn't know who he is, like Daredevil.
Right.
She's like, well, I think she was like, what are you, the Yellow Devil or something like that? And then they do the the musical cue from the Daredevil theme, which worked for me. I did not like the Miss Marvel X-Men thing. Oh, it's mutated, just some kind of mutation. But this musical cue like really worked for me. But yeah, I was kind of thinking like, well, maybe he just has actually just been there all that time. He's just not like super well known. He's not like trying to be an Avenger. He's just kind of the small time local hero in Hell's Kitchen. Because he definitely seemed to have a lot of experience, like you said, a lot of wisdom that he was able to impart onto Jen. So that's kind of how I was reading that.
Well, yeah, and actually, you know, they're playing an interesting line. One, we get an actual good kind of larger MCU drop with the fact that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. So that whole bit that doesn't matter, which allows obviously these more local superheroes, like you're saying, to potentially exist and be around because there's not some giant, you know, UN agency trying to go after them and control them all. Which I think it was a nice, subtle, nice, simple little drop that has huge implications and allows kind of a nice restart over the MCU post Endgame.
Yeah, you know, when he said that, he said it so casually that I thought that I missed something. Like that this has been revealed elsewhere. And I'm like, oh, really? When was this revealed? I must have missed it somewhere. Like he just said it so matter-of-factly and casually just dropped it out there. Like it was just a well-known fact. And I guess it is in that universe, but I figured for the audience it was a well-known fact. And I like, when that must have been maybe they dropped that in Black Widow or something when I wasn't paying attention or something like that. And then I watched a couple of videos like, oh no, this is news. This is actually the first time that we're hearing this, but he just sort of just casually just kind of throws it out there.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, yes, Ramona Floyd, do want to mention that, yes, Matt Murdock did first appear in the MCU in Spider-Man No Way Home. This was not his real return, but he was just Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
This is really his returning as Matt Murdock, Daredevil, in a larger thing outside of a just like lawyer talking to a guy and catching a break. Which was awesome.
He was in it for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like this,
yeah.
Then, I mean, that's a cameo at best. Like I don't really count that. This is an actual like appearance in the MCU.
Exactly. So yes, that is where I'm kind of focusing on that response. But what I was getting to is I think it's smart for them, and I hope they continue to do this, to not acknowledge Netflix, but not acknowledge them as well, to leave it as this sort of like soupy, foggy background. Is this the same character? Is this not? I think you can interpret either way. And I think even with the change of the suit, one, it is great for marketing because it sets up Daredevil in the MCU versus on the Netflix show because it's a different look. Two, as season 3 ended, Bullseye had been using the red suit. So this would be a way for him to take the Devil suit back, but have it look different enough to differentiate from the fake Daredevil we got in season 3 on the Netflix show. And yeah, by the same thing, I think by them just acknowledging he's Daredevil and he's been around, as long as you don't have to worry about specifically referring or not referring to any of those past events, I think it allows you to take it in without having to definitely do the acknowledgement. And depending on who you look at, I think Vincent D'Onofrio was viewing his view of Kingpin as the same character several years later now, rebuilding his empire. So I think with Charlie Cox, you could take it either way. Is it the new Daredevil who's just been around, or is it the old Daredevil that's now re-engaging in his Daredevilness?
Yeah, Desiree says in the chat that you get the vibe that he was daredeviling before She-Hulk, so definitely a while. Yeah, and that's what I was saying as well. I think he's been around since the Netflix show, which you said 2015, and this is actually MCU now is up to 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
So I think he actually has been around that long. Even if this were to you were to view this as kind of an alternate universe and it's not exactly the same as the Netflix show, I still think he's been around that same amount of time. And you're right, they are just kind of leaving it ambiguous. Could be the same as the Netflix show, could not be. Maybe it's an alternate universe. Doesn't matter. And they give us just enough information where that could fit. It could also be something different, but who cares? Like, it's Charlie Cox and it's Daredevil, so it doesn't really matter. But I imagine we would probably get more clarity, maybe a little bit more in Echo, but certainly by the time I get to Daredevil Born Again, I feel like we should have a better idea of what is happening. Or I don't know, maybe I'll just try to keep it ambiguous the whole time. But definitely with just him appearing in another show, appearing in She-Hulk, it's kind of easy to just, we don't have to answer that. We can just make it kind of, maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Yeah, I think the ambiguousness is definitely the best place for them to think, and then they don't have to worry about anything. Just, we're telling news stories. It's just, and again, oddly, much like the comics, new character, new run, new author, new writer, who's a new artist who's penning them, and that story's going to be a little different. And they're going to take a little different direction. It's kind of how that always works. So yeah, our first, we'll back up again. Our first meeting here, just very cute, nice chemistry between Jen and Daredevil, or Jen and Matt. And of course, then they have to get separated so they can come back together and re-meet in costume. But first, Jen has to go meet with Todd. I feel like that's how I have to say it too. Todd. Who is just gross. And yeah, man, the Wakanda Forever look, some people just can't pull that off, and he is definitely one of them.
Oh, I felt exactly how Jen did. Oh, that makes me uncomfortable. I love how she said that.
Oh, and the dead look in her face was so awesome when he's just like, it cost $1 million. $1 million. Like, same dead face. It was perfect. Like, why am I here? What is this about? I think they did that all very perfectly. Now, I don't know. We've been seeing Todd, and I think it's good that we set him up here, because I am very sure that we see him again in our final scene. I'm very sure that Todd was the one that she picks up before everybody comes after. But we'll get into that. But I think this is why we're teasing his placement here. Yep.
Yeah, I absolutely thought that was like 100% Todd, that guy that she ends up picking up. And apparently, God, I don't remember what exactly it was, but at the beginning of the season or something, they accidentally let something slip where this character was listed as Todd Hulk, and then they like quickly took that down. I'm trying to remember what exactly that was, but so maybe he's going to be some sort of Hulk. He's going to use that blood that they got from She-Hulk next week. But he will, one way or the other, he will definitely be back and play a major role next week. I've been saying this guy is a villain since the beginning, since he first appeared. And I did mention before that I watched another YouTube video that kind of put side by side his voice with one of the dudes in the Wrecking Crew who was wearing a mask, and it kind of seems like it's the same actor. So he's definitely, not only is he a rich douchebag like a lot of the other people that Jen encounters, but I think he's a straight up villain.
Oh yeah, and well, I mean, anytime that you keep seeing a character, you know that they're going to play some sort of important role, from a secondary standpoint. But yeah, just kind of a nasty, and we're reinforcing this idea, I think, both with Leapfrog and with Todd here.
Todd
is the rich parents, just the spoiled brats. Kind of get the idea that Todd's in that same boat. He's coming from a family with money, and he doesn't really know anything. He got his Wakandan spear, but yeah, Desiree, we agree. We want the Dora Milaje to come beat him down. They said they want it back, but I have receipts. So
the Dora Milaje will not care about your receipts, dude. Like, they just won't.
Do you have the first one that said stolen, or just some guy had it and then the receipt makes it okay? Yeah. So, but again, this basically gives us our nice little split and separation so that we can get our reuniting of our two major heroes for this episode, and that's as She-Hulk and Daredevil. Nice introduction fight. I love the parking lot bit. Again, quick movie. We had some great Daredevil moves. The comedy was good. I'm going to whoop your ass. My ass remains unwhooped,
Yeah.
which was
Well,
just awesome.
again, this was kind of another like character being dumb to make the story happen. Like she didn't stop and ask like why he was chasing him, or like she knows that guy's a douche. Like why is she defending him? But the scene was so great that I kind of was able to forgive that and overlook that. Such great chemistry. I love it. Sometimes when two characters have great chemistry like that and they get in a fight, then that's just all that much better.
Mhm.
So yeah, love the scene. So I was kind of able to overlook the fact that like, why didn't she like stop and ask him? There's so many things in television and films that like could have been averted if somebody just had a conversation.
Asks a question, speaks
Yeah,
up, does something. Yes, yes, I know. It always annoys the hell out of me. I had this one version of the fight in Batman v Superman of just Batman yelling out, or yeah, Superman yelling out the answers, and then realize he's using his inside voice and not using his outside voice. Because yeah, the whole thing would have been like, "Mom's been kidnapped. They got Lois Lane. I got this thing. He's being..." Yeah. Anyway, we won't need to go into BVS. That was horrible. Um, but it was a fun little bit, and we get our nice little back and forth. I love the chemistry of when he's like, "I'm Daredevil." It's like, well, it's certainly daring to have it mix ketchup and mustard. For the yellow and gold suit, I thought was great. Um, and the fact that she rips his masks off immediately. I have to appreciate it. I heard somebody mentioning of like, respect other heroes. But as far as she's concerned in this first meetup, he's a villain because he's going after her client and he looks
right.
like the devil. That looks like it would be a villain outfit. Um, obviously she's not up on New York local superheroes. She's in LA. But I did love the first of like, ha! I will find out who it is, because it's like, why doesn't that happen more often? So
Well, in Daredevil itself, the show was like there are several times where I thought that they should have just taken. Why don't you take the mask off? Like, and they don't. And so yeah, I appreciated that too. Yeah, just take the damn mask off. It's not like it's super glued to his head. Just take it off. Why don't you take it off? So yeah,
that's going to
I
be
did
the next
appreciate that.
upgrade at Luke's, is like, okay, can we latch this down and not have it so easy for giant people to pull off my
Yeah.
mask stuff? Uh, are you pretending to be blind? Because that would not be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely that gets us our nice just our nice little back and forth. We get a good little combat intro between the two of them, some nice little moves. I love the Daredevil fighting. I love the look they had. I think it had a great classic comic book feel of the way that he moved, he acted, his responses. But ultimately, we got to get these two heroes together because Eugene ain't a good guy. He kidnapped Luke. Not necessarily a horrible bad thing, but that's where Jen's got to get her gala suit. So she's got to rescue him. I mean, it's just practical. And it's good to learn a little bit of heroism.
Yeah, and they get to go to the lily pad.
Lily pad. Subtle.
Yeah, that was great. Subtle, yeah.
Giant lights.
Yeah, I don't know, like reminded me of, it's been a while since I've seen these movies, but it like reminded me of something out like one of the like 90s Batman movies, like where the penguin would be or something, just something just over the top, like ridiculous, just the lily pad. And my favorite part was that they had Frogger.
Yes. Oh yeah, I love that. You gotta keep with the themes. You gotta keep with the themes.
And I guess we can debate whether they were goons or henchmen, but they were like, "Where's we, the baby frogs, or are we tadpoles? Isn't it the same thing?" Like, there's so much great stuff in this episode.
Well, yeah, even that whole discussion above of like tactics and veteran, I'm doing this so well, I should do that. He's the whole math bit. Okay, it's about there 10 seconds. There's about 5 seconds each. I'm not going to wait for 10 minutes. Okay, the math, that's not how the math works here. It was fun little bits. I mean, even if it got a little overly goofy. Um, and yeah, the henchmen versus goons. Henchmen are dedicated, they believe in the cause, and goons are just paid. Okay, I like the breakdown. I'll go with that.
Makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I've never really put that much thought into it before. But yeah.
But yeah, again, it's the this is how you be a hero. You've been learning, from Bruce, she learned to be a Hulk and how to control that. Then, of course, it was pretty much all about her just being a lawyer and incorporating She-Hulk into as a lawyer. But now, this is how you be a hero and incorporate that into the life. So I liked it. And it didn't feel overly like condescending at any point, except the point where they were intentionally jabbing at each other. Um, but then even so, he's just like, trust me, and then dives over the edge. He's like, all right, I got to admit, that looked really cool. So that was really fun. And we almost had a hallway fight, which I thought was awesome. We got the goons in the hallway, like you said, discussing whether tadpole or baby frog is the best term for them. Gets the butt kick. Everyone shows up. We're getting the walk in. The music's there. He's armored up. We're like, yeah, hallway fight. And Jen just comes down and smashes him.
We get a little bit of a hallway fight before
we got a little bit of one. Yes,
yeah,
that is true.
He was bouncing off the walls and doing cool stuff for a little bit, and then she comes down and smashes in. Sporting for the first time the suit that Luke made for a few episodes back. We actually did see it I actually saw it in the trailer. It's, I think, similar to various different designs in the comic book, but I love it. Like I'm glad. I love that she's finally wearing her badass superhero suit. So yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, She-Hulk smash.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, yes, She-Hulk smash. That was great.
Well, again, and even the tactic stuff, like I think stealth is better. It's like, I just go in and punch them. Well, yeah, but they have guns. Well, I'm bulletproof. I was almost going to think like, yeah, but other people aren't. But they, again, didn't hammer on the point or anything. It's like, you each got to kind of fall into your strengths. And I think that hallway bit kind of showed that. He sneaks in and ninjas them, and then she smashes the rest. I think that works.
Yeah.
And then we get the intro to the lair. And I got to say one thing. I'm really bummed that Rob isn't here because I don't know if that he had picked this up. We've got kind of a double little AOS treats this week. We'll talk about the other one at the end of the show. But in this one, for anybody that was paying attention, one of the goons, big long-haired guy, is an actor by the name of Gio Corvera, who played one of Cal's Cal McLaughlin's superpowered henchmen in season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is now also one of the henchmen in the lily pad, one of Leapfrog's henchmen. So is it the same person? Is it not? He's also just an actor, stunt person. He's done a lot of fights and stuff in various Marvel projects. I think he played a terrorist in Iron Man and stuff like that. So he's done a lot of work. But he looks like almost exactly the same as in his second season AOS appearance. So just kind of a fun little reference for those keeping track of our potential Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crossovers into the main MCU. But yeah, overall, again, I think just a fun fight. I loved how Jen was freeing Luke and then trying to stop her client while Daredevil is kicking the crap out of everyone and giving her alternate legal advice. I don't know, insanity's a tough plea. You could go after PTSD with the chest. It's like, oh, okay, that's. Are you a lawyer too? No, I just like legal dramas.
So many great lines in this episode, and I want to see these two. Apparently, I guess this is the only episode he's going to be in. I was hoping he would be in 2, but apparently Charlie Cox says he's only going to be in 1. I need to see these two again really soon. Yeah, I don't know if She-Hulk's going to fly out to New York in the Daredevil Born Again series, but I need to see these two back together.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough thinking about crossovers and tones and the storylines and stuff like that, but I do love their chemistry a lot. If they could make it work, I would love to see that.
I think if they were able to bring him into this tone, I think they could do it the other way
They could
too.
no, I think they could
I
bring
think
her
they
into
could. I think they
it.
could make it work.
Would be helpful against Kingpin. Just
Yeah,
saying,
well, would be
be
pretty helpful.
it'd be a fun little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, just got fun. And you're right. I love the chemistry between them. I love the back and forth. The shame that he's leaving the next day. I just love how they're cute and they're sitting on top of the building there and they're like, so I got to go back to New York tomorrow. Maybe we can catch dinner next time I'm in LA. She's like, let's just skip that part. Yes, yes. And for the best one, I love the chemistry to them. Two, Jen needs a win. Matt deserves a win. Everybody deserves a win in this character. And Daredevil doing the walk of shame is one of the greatest things I have ever seen that I did not know that I wanted to see. Oh my god, that was so perfect. I think he's wearing like just tennis shoes or something. He doesn't
Wasn't he
seem
barefoot?
it could be barefoot. Maybe
I
that's
think he was
true. He's
barefoot.
tennis shoes and he's
Yeah.
barefoot. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. I was just like, he's got shoes and then what's the white feet? He needs a tan on his feet, I think. Maybe
Yeah,
socks.
that was really funny.
She-Hulk smashed Daredevil.
Good job. Yes.
Ramona Floyd, bravo. That you for the win. For the win. Oh yeah, he had no shame. Homeboy was whistling. Totally. Oh, it's perfect. It's like, you could probably have borrowed a shirt and not had to wear the but what fun would that have been of just Matt Murdock running out? No, it's Daredevil walking out is the look that we need. They even repeated it at the tail credits.
Yeah.
In one of their little.
Oh, I also liked her trying to take the suit off. It reminded me of House of the Dragon when Rhaenyra was trying to take Kristen Cole's suit off. But this was much more comedic.
This was much better. He seemed more involved, willingness on both ends. It wasn't like, okay, I shall stand while you slowly do the thing. You're calling some people to help with this. No, that was awesome. I thought the same type of thing. So that's hilarious. So beautiful appearance by Charlie Cox. A nice return of Daredevil and Matt Murdock for more than a cameo, a full meal that, like you said, Alyssa, can't wait to see again. Need to see again. If there's anything to pull out of this series, it's definitely having the two of them back together. I think would be awesome. Now, much like Jen, though, I have to agree. I think they came to a nice, satisfying conclusion right there, and it would have been a perfect place to wrap up the episode. But no, it's an extended tease. The finale is next week. This must be the twist. And we get a couple of fun little references. We get a nice Red Hulk reference. We get a nice fridging reference, which is actually a DC Comics bit, not Marvel. And Nikki jumping out in Wolverine claws to do her makeup. How many references and bits can they squeeze into 10 seconds?
I didn't even catch that at first. That's what she was doing, but yeah.
So yeah, let's get to the gala, because this is where I thought the finale would be, and being a lawyerly thing, I thought, of course, this is where Matt Murdock would come in. I'm glad that he was in the rest of the good part of the episode, because this seemed a little rushed, a little set up, and honestly, I've got two little bits. One, enough of the lady lawyers, isn't it funny to see them bits. Best Lady Lawyer Award we give to all the lady lawyers. And what's it like to be a lady lawyer? Now, I appreciate the responses of how ridiculous this was, but I think, I don't know, this kind of hammered the misogyny in just a little more than they needed to, even when we get the whole reveal and the whole King talks about Jen. It's like, she's not who you want. She didn't deserve from the power she stole from Banner. And she's a slut. Like, really? I mean, I don't know. I get that that's the point that they're going and just showing how stupid these people are. I would have destroyed the thing, Hulk or not, personally. But I don't know. Jump in. What did you think about this whole little bit? What are your thoughts on this?
I didn't really understand why everybody was running away and screaming afraid of her, because did they not just see like what was just done to her? Or at least not the women in the room, like not like, oh, that's fucked up. Like where
Obvious hidden camera,
yeah.
obvious. Yeah.
People should have been appalled by that, and they should have all been helping her smash that. Like they shouldn't have like been afraid of her because she's destroying a screen that is showing like all of her personal information, all of her private stuff all over the screen. All this, like they should have been helping her destroying it. I was like baffled why people were running away, and I thought that it was like it felt very forced that they wanted to have this scene where, oh, everyone's afraid of She-Hulk now, but it made no sense to me whatsoever. Doesn't ruin this great episode, but it
Sure.
definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Like
Yeah.
this made no, it just felt very, very forced. Made no sense for people to react that way.
Yeah. Oh my God, her life's upside down. She's on stage. People stole in. They stole data. They obviously put hidden cameras. They're slut shaming her on top of this, but because she reacts now, she's Savage She-Hulk. And so they've, yeah. That did, I was gonna say, yeah, that did kind of annoy. Also, where the fuck did damage control come from?
Yeah.
They have like an
Yeah.
offices in the
It just
back
came
there
out
or
of
something. They were just
nowhere.
like,
Yeah.
boom. I mean, again, show, comedy, all these things.
Yeah.
I get
I
this.
don't know.
We got to get stuff moving along. But that was Todd that she grabs. Okay.
Absolutely.
Dressed up in the hood. That's his ascot, his bouncy hair.
Yeah, I never doubted it for a second. Like I was like, oh, that's 1000% Todd right there. Like I just assumed it was Todd. Never doubted it.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping she was going to do like she did with Matt and pull off
Yeah,
the
just pull
mask
the mask
before
off.
dropping him out there. You know, that was like, come on, that's obviously Todd.
Yeah.
So yes, that does set up that obviously we have some conflict and she's not liked, and where they're going to Desiree, damage controller, all places, always, like roaches.
Yes.
Yeah. So then the one thing, look, we've been jumping back and forth with the idea of wanting to be like, you know, is Blonsky really behind this and he's been playing it? Is it the leader who does have a company called Intelligentsia in the comics and stuff, or one of his companies and stuff? So this would be an interesting kind of playing connection. However, I gotta say, if this video was their big move, this feels like it's just a bunch of frat boys. This doesn't feel like anyone smarter than Todd and Leapfrog are behind this.
Well, it might be Todd. Todd
Yeah.
might be the mastermind behind this.
I think someone in chat mentioned whether or not that maybe Todd owns Intelligentsia, which again, I would get. He called her a specimen. We know Todd's involved somehow, but I don't think it goes any higher than that. I mean, I can't see certainly the leader making dumb moves like this, to be perfectly
Right.
honest.
Well, and I guess that's what really frustrates me is that it is like not. I mean, it's like that's their big move, and yet it works. Like that really was frustrating. This should not work. Like it should not have had the effect that it did. But they made it the way that it's displayed on the show makes it look like it was some kind of genius move, when really it wasn't. It really shouldn't have had any effect whatsoever, except it should have had everyone else on She-Hulk's side is what should have happened. So the fact that it works, it just feels really forced, because that wasn't a great plan. Is that it? Was that their big plan? Or maybe there is more. They did take your blood. Maybe Todd or somebody will become a Hulk. So it's got to be that too.
Sure. And
You would
again,
think, but
I would love to see it. It's just, and also, I mean, we don't get any reveal. There's one episode left. It's not going to be more than a half hour, folks, because it's probably going to be just as long as this episode is, because we haven't really had any episodes that have been any longer, and I doubt that they'll go super long. They seem to have spent time to put this setup here, so they want to move right into where they're going. So I don't think there's any more reveals, you know, actor or character wise or anything besides who's behind it. And it's going to have to be somebody that we've already met, because it's not like they're going to you're going to bring Kingpin in, not in the last episode, in the episode before it, so that you can then spend time with them in the next one. That's how they've done all of their reveals. They come in the episode prior to the finale, and then we can spend the time.
Then the mastermind is Todd, then, I guess.
Todd. Yeah.
That's, as far as people we've met, I guess it could be Blonsky, but I just really don't think it is. Like, I just really don't get that impression that he's behind everything. I could buy that he wasn't entirely truthful in the last episode about, you guys were mentioning how the whole fence thing was a little sketchy, and that maybe he really did turn into the Abomination. And I could buy that, but the fact that he would be the mastermind behind it all, if that's the direction they went, I would have a hard time swallowing that pill, I think.
There doesn't see any advantage he would gain from this.
Yeah.
This is all just QAnon reactors.
Yeah, really. It would just kind of feel out of nowhere, except for the fact that we knew he was a villain in the previous film that he was in. But as far as what they've set up in this season, it would just feel out of nowhere. Todd would make more sense, but he's doesn't seem like the best villain or the most fearsome villain or intimidating villain. I don't know.
This is where I'd be asking Rob, is there another Hulk Gamma villain who's just a dweeb? Dweeb Hulk? He takes the Gamma and then he just turns into like more of an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's the only way that we could go, is that Todd's got to inject himself with the blood to try and do it, and then he turns into like a big blubbering idiot. I don't see where else they could go with this. But I like to be surprised.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll have Harrison Ford popping in as Thunderbolt Ross all of a sudden. I don't know.
She did drop the Red Hulk reference.
Yeah, she did drop the Red Hulk reference. Yes, which was kind of nice. I did appreciate that. That was kind of fun. So, any other thoughts or bits on this episode that we want to hit before wrapping things up?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, perfect. Now, just as a side bit, since we've been talking about some AOS people, did you happen to catch this week's Andor?
I did, yeah.
What did you think? What have you thought of these past couple episodes on that?
I've liked the past couple episodes. Now that we're actually getting into the Rebels versus Empire stuff, and it is different. I'm seeing what the critics had said ahead of time. That is more like a spy thriller than the typical Star Wars, and I like that. But I still need it to be something that I cared about. And the first 3 episodes, with him murdering some asshole dudes who deserved it, who were totally, trying to mug him and harass him. And then this dumbass villain who works for a second-rate security company that only wishes they could be the Empire. I did not care about any of that in the first 3 episodes. I still do not care about that particular character. I don't know where they're going with him. I don't know why he's still around, why he's eating blue cereal with blue milk with his mom, and what that has to do with anything. I can only assume they're going somewhere with that character. But I don't like that character because I hated that whole storyline, because I don't care. But now that the last 2 episodes, they've got into the interesting stuff with this band of rebels that don't trust each other. And, I don't trust them all either. I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, which one of them is the traitor? It's got to be one of them. One of them is a double agent or something. So, yeah, this is where it's gotten really interesting. And we didn't see him this week, but I loved last week where we got, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who played Qyburn in Game of Thrones. Oh, yeah. Maester Qyburn. He was
as the
kind of the head guy
at the ISB there. Yeah.
Yeah, that agent is the ISB. Yeah. He is great. And I love it that I'm kind of like sort of rooting for that lady to like uncover the secret of the rebellion. I'm like, yeah, wait, no, don't do that. No.
but I think they pulled in great, and yeah, we don't want to go into too much, and we won't go too into spoilers for those that they had watched Andor, but I guess spoiler warning here, real quick.
Well, I guess I just gave a bunch of
Yeah,
spoilers.
I
Well,
just I just want to throw it because yeah, while the first three episodes took me a while to get in, I've loved the past two, and there's not a freaking Jedi to be found, no desert planets. It's mostly just people talking, and I love every moment of it. And it's the one show right now I have to say, as soon as it ends, I'm like, no, 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 no. Why do I have to wait a week for the next one?
yeah.
Uh, which I was not expecting at all with this show.
Well, they haven't shown a desert planet, but they did name drop Jakku.
They did name drop Draco. That's fine. That's fine. Just don't have to freaking go there. Um, but another fun little bit for all of your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans. I am sure you noticed, I have to say, it took until the credits before I saw the name, and I had to go back and watch him because he was just so different than in Hunter. But Nick Blood appearing as the corporal up on the gangway talking with the lieutenant trader guy who makes all of the comments like, yeah, how many think he'll be there? He could smell him, though, wouldn't it? He was just like the perfect slimy Imperial, and he had the little mustache and everything. And I swear it was not Hunter. I had to make a second look to go back and be like, God, that is Nick Blood. Just doing a great bit. So yeah, again, more Agents of Shield characters showing up in the Star Wars stuff. I'm very happy with. And if you haven't watched Andor, definitely check it out. I will tell you the first couple episodes are maybe a little bit of a push to get through, but by the time you hit 4 and 5, you're gonna be wanting more. So
And sorry, I just spoiled a bunch of stuff for you. It's not that much. I mean, you probably won't get a lot of that out of context, but
no, 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 no. I don't. We didn't go in too much of like, oh my god, when he killed that one guy. No, I'm kidding.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so next week is the big She-Hulk finale. Mark should be back with us, so we'll have the full feeling of the series. We'll talk about, hopefully see if the finale delivers what we want, and then we can start tweeting and emailing Marvel to get She-Hulk and Matt Murdock back together. I think that's the only thing we could do. All right, so
Yeah.
Alyssa, any final thoughts, and then where can people find you?
I don't think I have any additional thoughts on Daredevils, but you can find or Daredevil and She-Hulk. That's where my brain is.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, but you can find me on Alyssa Jean's reviews. I am reviewing Star Trek Lower Decks weekly. For those of you who are into Star Trek and who like Lower Decks, it was an interesting thing that happened this week because I watched those two shows, Lower Decks and She-Hulk, back to back every week. Usually in the head-to-head competition, Lower Decks wins, but this week this was my least favorite Lower Decks episode I've ever seen, and this was the best She-Hulk episode that we've had so far. So, if you're into that, check out my review. Also, you can find me on Monday with this guy and Mark, my brother, on Enchantment of Eternity, talking House of the Dragon. I have my own review. I did a mid-season review after episode 5, and then I did my predictions for the rest of the season. So you can check that out. My predictions don't start until episode 8, so I'm really excited about this episode. I can see if my first 2 predictions were correct or not. So go back and check out that video and then come join us on Monday over Enchantment of Eternity and see how I did on my predictions, at least the first 2 ones. Yeah, please come find me on Alyssa Jean's reviews.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, you're watching D's Reviews. It's our show. We're here for one more week talking She-Hulk because the finale is next week. Thursday at 6 o'clock, we are live. But as Alyssa mentioned, you can find me over on Enchantment Eternity Mondays at 6 o'clock when we do our House of the Dragon discussion. After She-Hulk, might be taking a little break for a minute, might be reviewing some old shows. Keep track, hit that notifications button. I put stuff in the community tab so you can see what's coming up and what's going on. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. Desiree, Ramona Floyd, The Rich Room, Eric, Scott, everyone joining us live in the chat, everyone joining us in the archives. thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we will catch you next time. Take care, and bye-bye.
Also, time on Sprockets when we dance.